Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we are going to look at the layer 2 interfaces with tagged traffic. So the first scenario will be the sub interfaces. So how we can tag the traffic. So currently what the Palo Alto currently doing is that it is just acting as a bridge and it is just forwarding the traffic. So whenever it is receiving an untagged traffic, it is able to forward. So once we start tagging the traffic, it will stop the traffic because Palo Alto will be rejecting those packets which are tagged with the VLAN IDs. So what I'm going to do in this lab is that on my switches, first I will configure E0/0 as the trunk. So here we do not require trunk, but to keep the configuration simple and the explanation simple, so I will be configuring all the switches E0/0 port as the trunk, and on all the switches I will configure the VLAN number 10 and VLAN number 20, and on the respective interfaces I will assign the VLANs. So first what I will do, I will go to the switch 1 and I will configure the VLAN and the E0/0 as a trunk port. So first I will go back to the switch 1. So I will say config t VLAN 10, 20 exit interface E0/0 switch port trunk encapsulation .1q switch port mode trunk and no shut exit to show run interface trunk run interface E0/0. So I will copy this one and I will go to switch 2 configure to VLAN 10, 20 and I will paste the configuration here and I will go to switch 3. I will say VLAN 10, 20 and if I paste it over here. Alright, so switch 1, 2 and 3, all of them are now configured as the E0/0 has been configured as a trunk. So now whenever we configure the interface as the trunk, the switch should show you that which interface is trunk and what VLAN IDs it is tagging. So if I go back to my switch 1 and if I say that do show interface trunk, you see that I don't have any information about the trunk. So similarly, if I go to the switch 2, similarly there is no interface and switch 3 there is no interface. So at this moment what's happening is that switch is sending the traffic which is now being tagged. That means the BPDUs which the switch is sending, it's sending with the tagged VLAN tags. So now the tagging is being done, so the Palo Alto is now rejecting the packets, so we will keep in that way only. So next thing is that I will configure the E0/1 as a VLAN mode access for the VLAN number 10. And for switch 2 and 3, I will configure E0/2 as the switch port mode access as VLAN number 20. So first I will go to switch 1 and I will say that interface E0/1 switch port mode access VLAN 10 and no shut exit and do show run interface E0/1. I will copy this, go to the switch 2, I will paste it the same thing and I will say no shut exit, go to the switch 3 and I will paste it over here and no shut exit. Next I will go to switch 2 and I will say interface E0/2 switch port mode access VLAN number 20 and no shut exit do show run interface E0/2 and I will copy this one and I will paste it on the switch 3 and no shut exit. That's it. So my switches are now configured now. So currently the traffic is coming in, it is being tagged, sent it to Palo Alto, but Palo Alto is dropping the traffic because the interface on my E0/0 of the switches is not trunking now, right now. So let's go ahead and create the sub interfaces in the Palo Alto. Right, so once we log in, now also keep in mind that we already configured these interfaces as a layer 2 interfaces. We will not change any of the configuration on that one. All right, so let's go to the network and I will go to the interface, select that interface that which is being highlighted. Click on add subnet sub interfaces. Now I am going to tag that as a VLAN number 10 and I will say tag it with VLAN number 10, and currently I don't have any VLAN assigned to VLAN number 10. So what I can do is that before I configure those sub interfaces, I will go to VLANs, add VLAN. So I will say VLAN number 10. I will not assign any VLANs interfaces to it right now. Okay, and I will add one more VLAN, that should be VLAN number 20, and that's it. Let's go back to the interfaces now. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create multiple sub interfaces on individual interfaces of the Palo Alto. Okay, so on the all three interfaces, I will be creating sub interfaces now. So first one, select that one, add sub interface, say that eve1/1.10 because that's how I'm using over here, and tagging the VLAN ID as number 10, and I will assign it to VLAN number 10, and the zone I will select this one as the same zone so that the traffic will be allowed. So click on OK. Next with the interface 1/2, that should be number 10. VLAN ID will be number 10. VLAN will be number 10. And the zone I will select the same zone. Again, I will select the same interface 1/2 because we do have one more interface that is 20 VLAN ID. Select the VLAN ID 20 and select this as untagged. So just selecting the same security zone so that my traffic will be allowed once the Palo Alto start accepting the tagged traffic. So I will select 1/3, sub interface will be number 10 and number 10. This will be tagged with number VLAN ID 10. Again, I will just do 20, 20, VLAN ID 20. Okay, so all of them are now created. You can see that the main interface is not tagging anything, but the sub interfaces are tagging as VLAN number 10 and VLAN number 20 respectively. So I'll go ahead and commit and commit. Let's come back to the topology now. What we did was, so currently interface 1/1 was the layer 2 traffic, and we do have layer 2 untagged zone assigned to it, and there was a one VLAN which was assigned to is untagged, which we created again 1/1.10. We said this will be the layer 2 interface again because the main interface itself is the layer 2, so the sub interfaces will also be layer 2, and we said that this should be layer 2 but tagging to VLAN number 10, and we created a VLAN object number 10. Similarly for 2/1.10 and 2/1.20 we did the same thing, L2 VLAN tagging number 10 and VLAN number 10. This is also L2 tagging VLAN number 20. Now let's look at the configuration first we did with the main one. So we said that this one will be in the L2 untagged zone. So this is a zone. And if you remember, this VLAN is just an empty object. So there is no VLAN associated to this one. Similarly to this one, VLAN number 10, we gave a name as VLAN number 10, but it actually not tagging anything VLAN number 10. It's just the hierarchy which uses in Palo Alto that you do require an object in order to communicate. So what actually the interface is now doing is that the 1/1 is being associated to object VLAN untagged, which is not tagging any VLAN. 1/1.10, this one is tagging VLAN number 10 at the interface level, but if you see with the VLAN object which we created, VLAN number 10 does not have any VLAN. So it is still the same thing, empty object, and this is also an empty object, but we do require this object in order to communicate. So the VLAN object which we created, which is empty, is required just to accept the traffic. Simple as that. So that's why we are creating just like an empty object and associating to the interface. But when we create a sub interface, it is tagging the interface itself is tagging the traffic. So now once the commit is successful now, so let me go back and you see that commit is successful. So if I go back to my switch 1, if I say do show interface trunk, still it is not accepting. So my trunk interface is not up still. So if I say do show run interface E0/0, it is trunking. So if I say interface E0/0 shut, I will shut and no shut and no shut. So it's been up. So it's still up, but if I say do show interface trunk, and now you see that it is trunking. Because now Palo Alto is now accepting the tag traffic, so that's why the switch is now able to do the trunking. So similarly, if I say, you see that again this came by blocking VLAN number 1. So if I go do show IP, do show interface trunk, still nothing. So if I say E0/0 shut and do a no shut, so do show interface trunk, and now the interface is trunking. I will do the same thing for the switch 3 interface E0/0 shut and no shut exit and do show interface trunk, and now it is trunking. So what we did was when we created the sub interfaces VLAN, so it is now started tagging to VLAN number 10 and VLAN number 20 on the respective interfaces. So again, main thing is that now if you remember that my zone was L2 untagged. So this is the zone which has been assigned to all interfaces. So that means all the interfaces are in a intra zone and they are able to communicate with each other now. So let me go back to R1 now. So if I try to ping 10.1.1.2, I am able to ping, and 3 I'm able to ping. Similarly, if I go to R3, so I say ping 10.1.1.1, I'm able to ping. If I go to R4, ping 20.1.1.2. So what we did was last time when we did what we did, there was a Palo Alto connected to the switches. So we were not tagging any traffic at that time. We were just like untagged traffic. So there was PCs over here and it was untagged traffic. So we are not tagging anything. So when we say that this is VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, when the traffic is been untagged, still VLAN 10 is able to communicate with VLAN 10, VLAN 20 is able to communicate with VLAN 20. But now we are tagging still the same thing because there is no difference still, because VLAN 10 is able to communicate with VLAN 10, 20 is also able to communicate with 20. The only difference is that you are getting now BPDUs with the VLAN tags. That is the only difference. Now, this will not give any outcome, actually will achieve anything, but the only thing is that if you have any layer 2 and required tagging, that's where it is what do we say, good idea. So what I'm going to do is that I will add one router over here which will be acting as my default gateway. Okay, and I will make this one as a trunk port, and I will use the sub interfaces E0/0.10 and E0/0.20, and I will assign .254 on their respective subnets. So what my achievement is that whenever I configure this one from R2, I will ping the default gateway and I will give a routing as a default gateway to this one. And after that, I will try to ping it to VLAN number 20. So first let me add that one. So if you see that I am doing everything, all the labs in my GNS3. So I will grab one IOU router and I will rename this one as a default gateway. We'll start that off. So E0/2 on the switch 1. So if I come back here, switch 1, interface E0/2, switch port trunk encapsulation.1q, switch port mode trunk, and no shut exit and save. Now I need to duplicate this one, go back to GNS3, default gateway is on first. 1, 2. Okay, okay, add, and if I open that session, I should be able. Right, let me change the font to the 16 one. Yep, that's all good. So what I'm going to do, interface is 0/0, no chat exit, interface is 0.10, encapsulation.1q number 10, IP address will be 10.1.1.254. We said interface is 0.20, encapsulation.1q20, IP address will be 20.1.1.254. Alright, so my default gateway is now configured. So if I go back to my switch 1 now, so if I say do show interface trunk, I should see two interfaces 0 and 2, which I am. So now what I am going to do is that from the R2 I will try to ping to my default gateway 10.1.1.254. So if I go to my R2 and if I say ping 10.1.1.254, you see that I'm able to ping. So what can I do now is that IP route default gateway towards the 10.1.1.254, and I will go to the R4, and if I say ping 20.1.1.254, I should be able to ping. So default gateway 20.1.1.254. Yep, it should be able to ping. Just give it some time. Let me try with this R5. Okay, still not pinging. Because R2 is pinging, so that means everything should be good. 10.1.1.254. If I go to R3 and if I say ping 10.1.1.254, R3 is also able to ping. It's just only the VLAN number 20 is not able to ping. Alright, so what I will do is that instead of having this trunk port, I will add one more port. So one will be VLAN number 10 and one will be VLAN number 20. Let me check in that way. So we'll sign E0/3, come back to the switch 1, and I will say default interface E0/2, interface E0/2, switchboard mode access, switchboard access VLAN number 10, and no shut interface E0/3, switchboard mode access, switchboard access VLAN number 20, and no shut exit. Now I will go back to my default gateway. I will say default interface E0/0, no interface E0/0.10 and 20. Interface E0/0, IP address will be 10.1.1.254. No shared interface E0/1. IP address will be 10.1. Sorry, 20.1.1.254. Right, so let me go back to R2 and ping the same thing. I'm able to ping. Let me go to R4 now. Check if I'm able to ping. Still not. I'm not able to ping. So let me try to ping R4 itself. Yes, R4 and R5 are able to ping, but not the R. So if I go back to my switch, do show VLAN, is to make sure that E0/1, 2 are on that same, V0/3 same, and do show interface trunk, and that is also, yeah, it is tagging that one. But for some reason R4, and if I go back to my default gateway, do show IP interface brief. Yes, both of them are up and running. Or let me see, moving to the other switch, if I will start this to number 2/3 and 1/0. So I will say interface E0/3, switchboard mode access, VLAN number 10, no shared interface 1/0, switchboard mode access, VLAN number 20, no shared exit. So as per my topology, now I have moved it to switch 2. That means R2 and R4 should be able to communicate. So I will test it from R3 and R5. So first I will go to R3, that should be 254. And if I go to R5, try to ping 254. Okay, something is not right. And also, if I go back to my topology, this interface is not tagging VLAN number 20, so that might be the reason that VLAN number 20 was not pinging at that time. But I have moved to the switch 2 where the VLAN 10 and 20, both of them are present, and I was trying to communicate, but it is still not communicating. So let me go to switch 2, and if I say do show VLAN, so I have two interfaces on 10 and two interfaces on the VLAN 20. So if I what I will do is that I will try to ping from R2 to 10.1.1.254 because that is on the same switch. It should be able to ping, and R4 should also be able to ping. So let me test that one first. Yes, I'm able to ping R4. Yep, see that there is some issue with my switch. Alright, so what I will do, I will just remove these IOU switches. That might be an issue. I will take the gigabyte switches. So yep, I will just change the switches and I will be back. Alright, so I'm back with the new switches. So I have replaced the IOU switches with the gigabyte switches, and it's the same scenario which we were doing. No changes. Now I have configured the way it was before. The only thing is that the interfaces have been changed, so, and also have done the testing from R2, sorry, from R3 I was able to ping to the default gateway, and R5 I was able to ping to the default gateway. So there is no change in the configuration. If you see that I am able to ping 10.1.1.254 from R3, which is on the different switch on the different interface, and from R5 I will try to ping to the default gateway, which is on the 20.1.1.254. I'm able to ping. So it was just the switch issue, so I have replaced the switches and we are back to the configuration. So now at this moment, so what's happening here is that my default gateway, I have replaced it onto this switch. So on this switch now, two interfaces are connected, and that is my default gateway. Now, since I have the default gateway now, so I can go on R3 and give a default route towards my default gateway, and R1 I can give it on that, and similarly on the R4 and R5. So what happens is that once I give the default gateway, they are all of the routers are able to communicate with each other because they have now the routing in place. So first I will configure that one. So I will go to R1 first. IP route will be default gateway towards 10.1.1.254, and I will copy the command, paste it in R2, paste it in R3, and similarly on R4 I will paste it as 20, and now on R5 I will also paste. So all of the routers now have a default gateway towards my default gateway router, which will do the routing. So now if I try to ping from R1 to R4, I should be able to ping R1 to R5, I should be able to ping. So I will go back to R1, and if I say that do ping 20.1.1.1, see that I'm able to ping. And if I say do ping 20.1.1.2, which is R5, I'm able to ping to that one. So the final outcome of this lab was that I was able to tag the traffic, and Palo Alto was accepting the tag traffic, but I have attached a extra router which will be acting as a default gateway, and I was able to do the routing. But is this an efficient way? Yes or no? That's what the question is. So we were able to achieve the routing, able to achieve the tagging of the layer 2, everything seems to be fine, but is this an efficient way? Yes or no? I hope this was informative for you, and thank you.